Hey, folks. Good evening, rising sun, rising moons. Okay, I had one job. It's rising moons, and I am so happy to be here, live streaming on YouTube. Hopefully, thanks to those folks who joined us on the pre-show over on Instagram. I'm trying to just get myself into the habit of doing all these steps to make it work so we can have a nice discussion about Star Wars and Galaxy's Edge and the Star Cruiser and whatnot. Um, and this might well end up being the new format of our show. We're doing a lot of experimentation behind the scenes to see if we can get the live format and multi-camera working reliably enough that we could sit here and do a full gameplay session doing the cocktail. I just got back from the kitchen with my drink. This is the Cal Kestis that we learned from Sin City Bartender's YouTube channel. It's got some little popping pearls in there and some Aperol for color. So this is our way to celebrate Cal Kestis and the Jedi Fallen Order series of games. So Tabuite to all of you. And like we always say, this is the podcast where everyone is welcome, even your droids. I've had people ask me, like, what is that about? Like, it says droids welcome on all of our branding. And the idea is in the community that we like to play in, there is a ton of inclusivity and a ton of focus on it being okay to just show up as you are and not have to mask or put on a different face in order to be accepted or feel okay being around the people that you're going to be gaming with. And we're obviously referring to that scene in A New Hope where they come walking in and the bartender says, your droids are going to have to wait outside. And there's sort of like this undercurrent of racism or something we now retroactively think the bartender is probably dealing with some PTSD from the Clone Wars, where seeing droids is probably raising issues for him. But the minute we started talking about theming our gaming environment and our show around something cantina oriented, that was the first thing that popped into our head is, hey, we don't want people feeling like they got to be a certain type of person or act a certain way to be welcome. Everybody's welcome here, even your droids. If you have identified as a somebody who maybe might have been excluded in the past, we want you with us. We don't want you to just come and, be a wallflower. We want you engaged in the conversation. We want you playing the game with us. We really need you and embrace you as part of the conversation. So that's where that saying comes from. And that's why we like to say it at the top of each show. So hopefully, if you don't have a gaming group or you need people to game with, you can reach out to us and maybe we can be those people with you, because we've all felt like that at some point. So the reason we're doing tonight's episode in particular is right here on the table in front of me. This is the Cal Kestis double-bladed lightsaber, and I'm going to give you a quick demo if you have not seen this sucker in action. It's pretty great. So these are two blades from Galaxy's Edge. And let's see, you can hear that activation sound. These halves actually unscrew, so you could separate this, and you could just use this half, which Cal Kestis does use himself quite a bit in the games. Let's see here. Just checking my messages real quick, just in case anything weird is happening. Hey, there's myself in the past. See, Patrick says, that was cool to see behind the curtain. Costume or not, come have fun and love Star Wars. Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, this is a place for everybody. And one of the great things about Star Wars, it's full of everything you can imagine. So like it should be a no-brainer for everybody to have a great way to fit in. So when you got both blades in, this sucker is lengthy. So you got to be careful where you spin it. And let's see, I'll go ahead and light it up. So the two ends ignite separately with their own switches. Now there's a lot of color changing involved in the games that this lightsaber is based on. So we all wondered, will you be able to change the color of the blades? And the answer is yes, you can. Each end of the hilt has a sort of a hidden button that it's on the opposite side from where the activation switch is. And if you just hold it down for about 5 seconds, it'll change. Let's see. So we've got blue, we've got green. They're not going to read on camera quite so much. Oh, that's interesting. This one's just toggling back and forth now. So there may be a third mode I did not know about where you can just swap back and forth. Either that or the batteries are getting low, because this is actually my own personal lightsaber, but you've got 6 color choices. You've got, I think you've got red, yellow, green, blue, white, and purple. And they all look a lot more vibrant and correct in the room than they do on camera. So just very excited to get this into somebody's hands. So the one that we're going to be shipping out is unboxed and still sealed from the parks over here on the other side of the room. This one is really just kind of, so if you don't know what it looks like, that'll give you the idea. Okay, so I'm not seeing any panicked messages in my YouTube comments telling me that my audio is not coming through or something's not working. So that tells me I feel like it is safe to do this drawing for the lightsaber. How's that sound? I think we should just go for it. So I'm going to switch over to this view where we're going to use this special tool to do the random picking, and it's going to happen fast. So don't blink or you'll miss it. There is no fanfare. It literally just takes the spreadsheet that I fed it with all of your names. Oh, thank you. Stream looks great. Everything's working. You're okay. Thank you so much. I actually really appreciate that, because it's really tough to know once you kind of have everything running. It's actually a little bit difficult to check, like, is this working the way we imagine it is? So I really appreciate that feedback. Yeah, so I got emails from all of you with the donation receipts for donating to Starship Aurora. Thank you so much for doing that. That is the company that runs and produces HalseyCon, which we all just got back from and had an amazing time experiencing something I don't think any of us thought was possible, but it was, and it was lovely. And now they have formally announced that they're doing another one. So I sort of feel like things are really trending in a direction that we as Star Cruiser fans this time last year we could only dream of, and we were actually feeling pretty sad about. So fed all your names into the spreadsheet. And then those of you who also donated to Magic Wheelchair, which is another amazing organization, got a second entry. So this tool actually allows you to weight the entries differently. So based on the number of entries, you've got about a 1 in 40 chance. There's probably about 30, 35 people, something like that, that entered. And then you've got probably another 10 of those within that made this the bonus donation. So probably about a 1 in 40, somewhere between 1 in 40 and 1 in 50 chance of winning. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the button. So cross your fingers. I should have had a drum roll sound effect, but here we go. Start final drawing now. Got to sign back in, of course. Of course. Yeah, if you need to do a random drawing, this is actually not a bad tool. Pretty reliable. Here we go. For real this time. Kestis lightsaber giveaway. Who's it going to be? The tension is unbearable. Patricia Foreman gets the Kestis Legacy lightsaber. Congratulations, Patricia. Thank you so much for entering. And thank you to all of you for supporting Starship Aurora and Magic Wheelchair. This was a little bit of a spur of the moment opportunity to just chip in and help out a little bit. I don't think they really knew we were going to do this. They certainly didn't ask. And we just kind of had this lightsaber that was an extra because of a mistake that I made somewhere along the way in this past year. And I was like, this feels like the perfect way to use it. So if that can drive even a little bit more help and support to make sure that we all get to have an awesome HalseyCon 2, then it's totally worth it. And if this brings some happiness and some enjoyment to you, Patricia, or to somebody in your family, then I'm super stoked for that. So congratulations. And if you like the giveaway thing, like maybe we'll just keep on doing it. We did some giveaways on our past episodes. A lot of times we would give away a copy of the game that we were learning how to play in the episode. That was just sort of our way of wanting to share the experience so that you could bring it home and maybe have that be something that you have in common with us, is that we both had a chance to enjoy that game. So maybe we'll do more of this. I can't promise it will always be on this scale. We might give away some small items. There are a lot of really cool makers and sellers now in the Etsy community part of the Star Cruiser world. So just having a look at the comments real quick. Betsy says the force is strong in Patricia. Great idea. Thanks for doing it. Patrick says, I've got something on the burner for next year's con. Very exciting. Things happening all over the community. Yeah, we're just really honored and touched every time we see like this, how special the people are in this community and the kind of stuff they do. We just want to be around it. We feel like it's a great influence. It inspires us to want to be better humans. There's something about the Star Cruiser experience that I think attracted a whole crowd of people who all were open to the idea of how could I be a little bit better or a little bit kinder to my fellow humans here in the galaxy, as we're all just doing our best to kind of make our way through it. So that's amazing. So Patricia, I will follow up with you and I will collect some information from you so we can get this out the door to you right away. And looking forward to that. While we're on, I was going to just maybe cover a few other things. Let's see what else is hot right now. There is a group called Halcyon that is for all of those of us who need a little weekly fix of Star Cruiser talk. It's a Zoom call. It actually happens twice a week, partly to be time zone friendly, where people have different work schedules. They're trying to be as inclusive as possible. I can't say enough good things about this call, you guys. I did it this morning. I also did it last week. I've had a little bit of a change up in my schedule lately that makes it easier for me to join than it was before. But man, it's delightful. And a lot of the people in the group are also makers or are getting input and advice from each other about their shops or where to go next in their business. And they're such a generous group. Like, they are all just super open and collaborative and lovely to each other as they're all kind of finding their way through this. I really admire it. And it's honestly, it's just kind of like uplifting to be around that energy a little bit. So if you would like to get in on the Halcyon call, there is a HalseyCon Facebook group that you can join. I know there's a lot of groups these days and there's a ton of chats, so it can be a little bit tough to keep them all straight. But I will post a link to the comments of this, or not the comments, the description of this episode, pointing you to the right one. And then once you're in there, you'll be able to request to get an invite to the Zoom call. And Beth Fitzgibbon is really good each week about reposting the details for how to get into the call. Highly recommended it. One of the things that came out of that call this morning that is time sensitive is tonight is the deadline for our community's equivalent of a Secret Santa gift exchange. They're calling it Secret Saja. If you're watching this and you did not go on the Star Cruiser, the Saja are the sort of Force adjacent characters who would get very excited if you expressed that you may have had any kind of um, Force moment in your life or questioned whether you might be Force sensitive. They would come along and help you with your lightsaber training, your meditation, really special. And so you're going to have the opportunity, if you would like. I'm going to just flip over to a different tab in my browser here where they're using a platform called Elfster. And Elfster is really solid. So if you're doing a Secret Santa type of thing at your workplace, for example, and you want to use this platform, really would recommend it. And there are now, I forget what it was this morning. I think we were up past 60 people had already signed up, and you're going to get matched with somebody, but they are doing that matchmaking starting tonight. So if you would like to get in on this, I will also post the link for this sign up in the description of this episode, but it's, like I said, it's tonight. So don't miss the boat on that. The other thing I was going to mention was this skeleton crew we're now within like our final month of that show starting. And I'm just curious to hear from you. Like, how are you feeling about Skeleton Crew? We're seeing occasional posts with new photos. There were like 3 new ones just today. And I'll say I was a little kind of disappointed that I went to try to find them on their Instagram and it's not here. They just have some of the images that were already out. But man, the show looks gorgeous, and it's meant to have kind of a Goonies vibe, like those 80s style child empowerment films that a lot of us grew up on. I think it's gonna be really wonderful. We were talking about Jaleel White. If you remember him, he played Steve Urkel on Family Matters, is in the cast of Skeleton Crew. And now as an adult, he's got a really cool look. He's got like a beard and he's bald. So I appreciate that. And he has like eye gear like Mars from our community might wear. Cause there's a lot of a pirate theme in this show. And I think he's meant to be pirate type. So excited to see him. He's one of those actors who is super cool when he is out of character. And I'm dying to see what he's going to do in that space. Let's just see if there's any more comments. Oh, the Agorist attorney says delayed reaction. That's me. Thank you. Yo, you're so welcome. Very exciting for us to have the opportunity to do something like this with all of you. So really appreciate you joining in. Let's see what else besides Skeleton Crew is timely right now. I was going to talk a little bit about HalseyCon. So Patrick was in the comments mentioning that he's working on a project for next year's HalseyCon. And I think we're all kind of in that mode of figuring out like, what could it be? What, we've sort of taken the blinders off now. And I think we all feel a little bit creatively inspired and uninhibited to figure out like, if last year's HalseyCon was just the first foray, what would it look like if we kind of go up and out from there? So I know Bridget and I have been exploding with ideas. We've been talking to some of you folks about different ways we might collaborate and come up with stuff together. And this all ties back to that theme that came through in a lot of the panel discussions and workshops where we sat and listened to amazing people like Michael Terragarver, Nick Tierce. The Shaft Stumps talked about GMing an RPG and how could you optimize that, because there's a lot of traps that people fall into. Not the good kind, not the fun kind, the kind where your players may get bored or not feel fully engaged or feel like their characters matter. That was something the Star Cruiser did so brilliantly, is it made all of us feel like not only did our characters matter, but like no one other than your character could have solved this problem for the principals in the Star Cruiser story. It had to be you. And thank goodness you were here, because if you wouldn't have been on this trip, we don't know what we would have done. And if you as a game master can create that feeling for your players in a game or an immersive experience that you're creating, so much the better. So we're all kind of thinking about like different forms that could take. What stories do we want to try to tell? And how can we grow the nucleus of the Star Cruiser story that we've been given? That's like this beautiful gift. But if that's just like the nucleus and we build out from there, where all could we go? If we have the entire Star Wars box of paints to use at our disposal, what might we do? And that to me is just so exciting because I know the hearts of so many of the people in this community and how wonderful they are when I imagine the kinds of stories they will dream up and what they will put into those as far as their passion. And there's everybody has all these amazing skills. I think it's going to be incredible. I'm so excited for this year. So yeah, if you have things you're interested in doing for HalseyCon and you would like support or feedback or idea, or just need a place to bounce ideas and just kind of try on concepts for what you might do, and you would like us to help you weigh in on that, like we'd be glad to do that. You just let us know where we can be helpful, and we'd love to be involved. Future. So I put down a note about the future board game cantina. So this is a thing we talk about a lot in our house is how do we do this kind of a show, but also like not let it take over our lives? How do we keep it like scalable and manageable? And also it gets some expediency built into our process. We filmed some stuff last year that we still have not put out. It's embarrassing because it's good content and we think the community would love it. And some of it's pretty timely right now, actually. So we need to get out the door. And the problem is when you're working full time, you have life stuff crop up, very difficult to go to all of the extent of filming a show, especially when you're dealing with multiple cameras or content that needs to be planned in advance. The minute you introduce a guest, now you have extra scheduling considerations. And then you potentially have weeks or months of post-production to edit all that material together and make it look nice. So we're now starting to ask ourselves, like, could we use this live format as the format for an episode of Board Game Cantina? Could we go to the full extent of having that overhead camera view, multiple cameras on the faces of the people in the room? Maybe we're zooming people in remotely who are not here in the room with us. If we were doing something like an RPG or something where maybe they don't have to be here physically touching the table, or the game can be reproduced in an environment like Tabletop Simulator where it's happening on the computer and we can just flash to that view and the people could be anywhere. But then make it so that by the time we're done and we turn off everything after we finish playing, that episode is finished and it's just out and it's got all of our music and our titles and everything. So that is why you see me doing some of this experimentation with the titles, the overlays, the music. We're slowly trying to creep in the direction of getting a show together that almost happens in real time. Like if you were to watch it live, it would be as close as you could get to physically coming over here and just hanging out with us for a couple hours, playing the game, drinking the drinks, talking the Star Wars, and then going home and not having to wait 3 months for the output of that experience. So I'd be curious to know what you think of that. Does that sound like something you would tune in and watch? There are so many great Star Wars games that have been coming out in a more and more steady stream. We would love to be covering those. Let's see. Joseph Kramer says you should absolutely try it live. We're getting we're very close. Like these last couple weeks here where we've been doing things like this, we're using it as our testing ground. So hopefully we're getting over the fear factor and you'll see us pull the trigger and just go for it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's low stakes, but we're also kind of perfectionists. So we like to try and at least get close. Let's see. Agorist Attorney says, so excited. My youngling is over the moon, but also just happy to support HalseyCon. Man, you are under no obligation to send us pictures, but if you want to, like, we'd be stoked on it. We would just really be excited to see your excitement coming from something like that. Betsy says, post-production is a bear. My hat's off to you. Yeah. If any of you got to see some of our Star Cruiser special last year, that was filmed over multiple days, spread over multiple months. We actually had a second Star Cruiser voyage in the middle of the shooting that sort of altered our course a little bit for what we filmed after that. And then it was a couple more months to finish editing. I was trying to time it somewhat around the closure so that it wouldn't feel like it was weirdly coming out way later. Um, and that just took a lot of work, a lot of like all-nighters to make that happen. So if we can get to the point where that's not so necessary, that's going to feel really good. Um, let's see. Agra says 100% will in costume. Wow. Okay, that's amazing. Noreen says that would be great. Patrick says, yeah, if there's a way I can help, just send a signal. Yeah, all you guys are just so wonderful. Thank you for just being who you are. It's really great. Really like touches our hearts a little bit to be around all you people. I feel like there was one more thing I was going to touch on. What was it? Oh, Epic Universe. So if you like to immerse, there's a decent chance you have also been to Universal while visiting the Disney parks. And you've probably been following the news about Epic Universe. They announced this new park back in like 2019. And then I think it got delayed by the better part of maybe 2 years by the pandemic. And so they just recently kind of transitioned out of all the marketing, which was sort of based on like conceptual art and like speculative design work, to now where you're seeing like actual footage of real things. And so that's getting exciting to see. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I saw some posts that just as of today, they are selling park tickets for Epic Universe and taking reservations for that new hotel. So if you have not been following the Epic Universe situation, it is a series of 4 themed lands, if you want to use the Disney terminology. And they are themed off of Nintendo. The Dark Universe, so that's all your classic Universal monsters like Dracula and Frankenstein. You've got an extension of the Harry Potter Wizarding World area. This is a completely new area in a different part of the park that is themed off of the Ministry of Magic and the sort of French, I think it's meant to be the French ministry. And then there's a 4th one, How to Train Your Dragon. And the ride designs all look amazing that I've seen so far. But what's cool is, and this is why I wanted to talk about this a little bit, there is a new hotel that they're building. It has a cool name that I'm blanking out on, but it's stationed right in the center of this beautiful plaza that has each of those lands I just rattled off has a portal that you're sort of traveling through to access those lands. And those are arranged all around the central plaza. And then in the middle of that, like the crown jewel, is this hotel. And here's what's really interesting to me, and I would be so curious to hear from you if you have thoughts on or speculation on this, because right now none of us knows. So all we can do is guess. But what I can't help noticing about that new hotel is it is larger in capacity than the Star Cruiser was in terms of how many people can sleep there, but not by as much as I was expecting. This thing is not the scale of like the other Disney hotels where you've got thousands and thousands and thousands of people, probably in thousands of rooms. This is more like maybe 1 or 2 notches up in size from Star Cruiser. And I heard them use some language in some of the marketing maybe a few months ago saying that we're going for immersion and something like immersion and integration of the experience like we've never done before, or like has never been achieved before, some version of that language. I should have written it down so I could quote it exactly. But what struck me about it is I wondered, did they see what we were doing on the Star Cruiser, get some ideas, and potentially have character? Because I noticed that Central Plaza almost has its own theme. It's like a celestial garden or celestial park, something like that. Like they could have just made it an attractive area, and then you go through the portals and now you're in the themed areas. They wanted the plaza and the hotel to have their own theme. And that makes me wonder, will they have cast members in character interacting with the guests in some way? Could they even go to the extent of having you doing whatever the universal equivalent of data pad missions would be, where let's say a character's sibling, my sister went missing and I think she may have gotten pulled into the dark universe. Will you help me? Um, it feels like there's an opportunity there for them to send you on excursions into each of the portals, completing missions, and then coming back and reporting to them how it went. Because I noticed the scale of this hotel seems like they were making an intentional choice to keep it a certain size. And I'm just hoping that maybe that means they have a desire to do some version of that. So let me know what you think. Patrick says the Helios Hotel. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know why I couldn't think of that, but it's super cool looking. It all has a little bit of a steampunk, like if you've watched the show Arcane, that's anime style steampunk magic world. We're really into that show right now, and so it's top of mind. But that's kind of the vibe I got when I was looking at the design of the Helios and the plaza around it. Betsy says, yes, we're planning to go to Epic Universe at the end of June next year. Yeah, I'm dying to see it. Patrick says, themed around the palace of the Greek god Helios. That idea, yeah, it could be cool. Hope they do something like that. It feels like now, I don't know. If nothing else, I'll just say I'm kind of spoiled now. How do you feel? I think I am so spoiled that it's going to feel weird to go to something that claims to be fully immersive and not have an opportunity to make a meaningful emotional connection with a character who needs me to do something that only I can do and gives me a way to do it that requires going off, exploring the different areas of the park, and then coming back. There was just something so satisfying about that kind of, if you want to think of it as like a loop of gameplay. A lot of games have a sort of cycle that you're in. I've heard some video game designers call it like the 30 seconds of fun, where maybe you're fighting monsters and then you're collecting loot and then you're going to the store and selling it. And then you're spending the money to level up your equipment and then you're going back out again like that. That's the 30 seconds of fun that you can describe to somebody that might be enough to get them to want to play it. And I feel like there's got to be a version of that going forward now that we've all seen how cool it is, or it's not going to be good enough. I know Universal was taking some big swings in the Nintendo world where they really wanted to gamify your experience in there. This feels like it could be their moment where they zoom out and say, what does it look like if we do that for all of these other lands? So who knows, man? Like, what an exciting time to be a fan of all of this stuff. I think I just kind of wanted to have a moment to touch base with you, hear what some of you think. Let's see. Betsy says, even going back to Sleep No More was a bit disappointing after the Star Cruiser. Don't hate me, Sleep No More fans. I love it too, but it's not the Star Cruiser. Yeah. And what I loved about what we learned about Sleep No More at HalseyCon is, I guess I'll say it this way. I like that it is not just another flavor of the exact same thing. It's a different thing. And if I'm not mistaken, it's a precursor. So when we're in Star Cruiser, we're experiencing sort of the natural evolution of the thinking and the design that went into Sleep No More. But when Bridget and I go do these different experiences, we want it to be different. We want it to be something else so that we can have that joy of discovery and that joy of coming home and discussing it with our friend group, talking about it with all of you. I think it's cool that these things could take all different kinds of shapes. And that's half the fun is not knowing what's it going to be like. Patrick says, how do you tie Greek gods to Dark Universe or Harry Potter? Yeah, great question. Glad that's not my job to figure that out. But it did feel to me like having all of those portals arrive at a common destination or origin point, depending on how you're looking at it, feels like it means something. It feels like they mean something by that being the design. And they could have just done like Disney or even the other Universal parks where there's always some kind of a hub to the experience that branches off, mainly so you can orient yourself and not get lost. Like as long as you can get back to the hub, you can kind of figure out where you need to go. It was the atrium on the Star Cruiser. But now that we've experienced that hub having special meaning, or being a place where important things happen and it's not just purely about physically tying the different areas together. I think I need it. I think I need that to be part of it for me to not be disappointed. We'll see. We'll see. So anyway, that's kind of what I had for you tonight. I really appreciate everybody jumping on and spending this time. Like I said earlier, we'll do a little bit more of this, and you'll see us gradually pushing ourselves to experiment a little bit more with the show format. Um, but the last thing I'll say one more time is, Patricia, congratulations. Thank you. So excited for you. And it sounds like there might be a youngling who's destined to benefit from this. We'd love to hear how that goes. Like, that just seems super fun. But certainly don't feel pressured to do that. So everybody have a great rest of the night. I'll just hit the button and we'll bring the music back up. If that were, oh, you know